Welcome to Batumi. This is the Black Sea. So guys, I am in Georgia's Black Sea resort. This is Batumi, the Vegas of the Black Sea, or the mini Dubai of Georgia, overlooking the pebble beaches and black sands of the Black Sea. This is Georgia's coastal getaway. It's a big port city, as you can see behind me. There's a big working harbour here, but it's also known for its casinos, for its crazy architecture, which I'll show you in this video, and for its distinct Adjaran identity. This is an autonomous region. It's quite separate to the rest of Georgia, but it's still inherently a part of the nation. So for the next couple of days, I'll be exploring Batumi. I'll be showing you the quite insane and at times ridiculous modern architecture they've got here, and I'll be tracing the history of this little port city, which goes all the way back to Jason and the legendary Argonauts, the mythical ancient Greeks that came here in search of the Golden Fleece. So, join me as I explore Batumi. So let me take you on a little tour of Batumi Boulevard. So this is the main sort of promenade in the city. It's what the city is really famous for. And it stretches for at least 7 kilometers, I believe, right along the shores of the Black Sea, all the way south to Sarpi, where you'll find the Turkish border with Georgia. It's a border I've crossed many times before. It's about a 20-minute drive from here. And on a few previous adventures before I was doing YouTube, I've traveled overland across Turkey and then come into Georgia through the Sarpi gateway. So Batumi is in the Adjaran province of Georgia, and it's a little bit different here to everywhere else because we sit on the shores of the Black Sea. There's more of a kind of subtropical climate here. So you'll see the palm trees behind me. For the last 2 days that I've been here, actually, this is the first day I've been able to film outside because it's just been tipping it down with torrential rain. So if you're going to come here, be prepared for the weather, or come in summer when all of this boulevard here is lined with beach bars. Now, these days, Batumi is a bit of a playground for the rich. There's a lot of Russians here who are kind of escaping the war in Ukraine and military service. And yeah, there's a lot of clubs, a lot of beachfront clubs like this one. But during the Soviet and Imperial Russian eras, it was better known as a harbour, which is why that lighthouse there is kind of a relic of that era. It's still a big industrial port, but things have changed here, of course. But the Soviets kind of built this up into one of the most important Black Sea harbours. And then following Georgian independence in the 1990s, Adjara kind of escaped a lot of the trouble that was affecting the rest of Georgia, where there was like organised crime and gangs and a lot of corruption in the kind of aftermath of the dissolution of the empire. And it was kind of run as a fiefdom, like as a kind of like almost like a medieval kingdom. It was effectively almost independent and declared independence like Abkhazia up the coast did. But it was run by a strong man who was then eventually ousted during protests in the early 2000s. But Batumi Boulevard itself, as you can see here, kind of stretching all the way along the Black Sea. This was built during the Imperial Russian era, for almost 300 years before the Russians arrived in the Caucasus in the late 18th century. This was actually part of the Ottoman Empire. The Ottomans conquered this area following the fall of Constantinople, or Istanbul, in the 15th century. And so this area became largely Muslim. It had a majority Muslim population for a long time. And to this day, large numbers of Muslims still live in the region. I think it's around 30 to 40% of Adjarans are Muslims, but that does not still stop them growing wine, drinking. They still speak Georgian. They're very much Georgian, but they just have that sort of difference of religion, whereas the rest of Georgia is almost exclusively Orthodox Christian. This Adjaran region has a very sizable Muslim population. But of course, Batumi's history stretches back long before the Imperial Russians and long before the Ottomans. The name Batumi, I believe, has ancient Greek origins. Effectively just means deep harbour or port or sea or something like that, which kind of suggests the sort of strategic importance of the city, dating all the way back to antiquity. Black sand underfoot. That's why they call this the Black Sea. The reason this was such a strategic place, going all the way back to the time of the ancient Greeks, who actually established colonies all the way along this coastline, is because of its location, because it's a vital trade link to across to Cappadocia, to Anatolia, and then across the Black Sea to Europe. But this was kind of the edge of the known sort of Greek world. This area was known as Colchis, which is the name for the sort of the native indigenous kingdom that lived here. And legend had it that they were rich beyond belief. So there's the famous legend of Jason and the Argonauts, the Greek kind of explorers. They were searching for the fabled golden fleece. Now, legend has it that the Colchian kingdom was rich with gold that flowed down from the mountains through the streams. As the story goes, they would collect this gold using large woolen rugs, which collected the gold and then gave rise to the legend of the Golden Fleece. But that was a long time ago, and now Batumi is probably best known for its crazy architecture. Like you can see behind me, the alphabetic tower. A lot of this development, I'll show you a few more of the buildings as we go around. There's a lot of sort of high-rise hotels and casinos as well now. But there was a huge amount of investment and development in the 2010 onwards, I think 2008, 2009 as well. And now that's why they kind of call this place the Vegas of the Black Sea, because of the casinos, or the sort of mini Dubai because of the kind of mad modern architecture. And there's not a huge amount of the Soviet kind of apartment buildings or mosaics or any of that stuff really left here, because it's all kind of been superseded by all this kind of modern skyline that you see. So for me, that makes Batumi a very unique place compared to a lot of other places in Georgia. Whereas Tbilisi is very sort of ramshackle in its old town, Batumi is kind of a complete opposite, a contrast. It's very modern, very different, kind of looking to the future almost, rather than to the past. You can see up there, just inland, there's some more high-rise buildings and then a Marriott Hotel down at the end of the boulevard as well. But yeah, because of its kind of distinct identity, because it was a part of the Ottoman Empire for so long, because it has that Muslim population, Ajara, which is the wider region which stretches up to the kind of the fake border with Abkhazia, still remains a kind of autonomous region within Georgia. Now, at the end of the 1990s, when you had Georgian territories breaking away from the newly independent Republic of Georgia, so Abkhazia and South Ossetia, Ajara perhaps could have done the same, but they decided to stay part of Georgia. But now they have their own sort of local government, their own autonomous government, their own flag. They kind of look after their own affairs to a large extent, which is why this place can feel at the same time very similar to Georgia, but also very different. So yeah, I'm here at the end of April. So the beach isn't particularly lively at the moment because it's been so rainy. I'm here writing an article for the Times, the newspaper, and they kind of want to sell it as an alternative beach destination for Brits. But if you want to make the most of the beach, you've definitely got to come here in summer. Yeah, you can see a bit more of the sort of modern skyline there. And yeah, because it's so close to Turkey, there's a lot of Turkish restaurants and tourists around here. There's also a lot of Russian tourists, a lot of Ukrainian restaurants as well. So it's kind of a weird kind of mix of East and West and the old kind of Soviet world all coming together here in this kind of almost neutral place, where you can just kind of, enjoy the beach and have some beers or whatever and kind of try and forget about the politics. And yeah, the beach just stretches on for miles, really. So, although the boulevard was built in 1881 by the Imperial Russian Empire, during much of the Soviet era, this was really just a working harbour rather than a kind of beach getaway. That honour kind of went to Abkhazia, which is just up the coast here and is now self-declared independent breakaway republic. So all the Soviet leaders, like Stalin had a Dhaka on the Black Sea coast, but that was in Abkhazia rather than here. It wasn't until that conflict with Abkhazia, when they broke away and kind of lost that Black Sea area, that this kind of came into its own almost. But you can see there's still some sort of grand imperial Russian or Soviet kind of architecture here. And I was in Abkhazia a couple of years ago, and it's kind of very similar, this kind of stuff. You find it there on the Black Sea as well. But whereas Abkhazia is now kind of just in ruins after years of conflict and neglect, and Batumi is very different to, say, Sukhumi, which is the de facto capital of Abkhazia. If you go there, you'll just see ruined buildings everywhere, but here's very different. Yeah, wherever you go in Batumi, you seem to come across some strange buildings. Apparently this is supposed to be a dolphin. I don't quite see it. This is where people come to get wedding pictures, apparently, I was told the other day. Yeah, you can see at the top of this tall tower, there's some weird revolving kind of Ferris wheel installations almost. Not sure if they work or what. So just back from the Batumi Boulevard, there's kind of like what you call the Old Town. However, unlike Tbilisi, where the Old Town kind of dates back to like, I think the 6th or 7th century even, here is a lot more kind of newer in that respect, because much of this was built in kind of like a European style by the Russians, by the imperial Russians. At the same time the boulevard was built. So they were going for kind of like very almost Parisian vibes, which you kind of get here. So you do feel like you're in Europe. So yeah, this is Europe Square. As you can see, some very European architecture. But now, as with anywhere it seems in old towns, there's a KFC just there, and then over here there's a McDonald's, which is a bit of a shame. Interestingly, here you can see the kind of ancient history that's still remembered here. If you can see up on the pillar there, that's Jason and the Argonauts. Yeah, this is another new kind of development, I think dating back to like 2010. You can see the kind of unusual architecture. This is the piazza. It's built in like an Italian style. I think the idea is to kind of show how Georgia is effectively Europe rather than Asia, which is interesting because obviously this is the crossroads between East and West. But there's a real mix of stuff. So for here, for example, just opposite, you have this Greek Orthodox church. This was built in the 1860s, I think. But then, really interestingly, just around the corner from the Greek Orthodox church, you have this, the Golden Dome and a minaret. And this is the only sort of working mosque left in Batumi, in the city itself. Which kind of shows that kind of legacy of the different religions and empires that have come through here. Now, as I said, I think 40% of Ajara, roughly, are Muslim. So yeah, the central mosque was built in 1866, but then during the Soviet era, like the churches as well, it kind of was used for other purposes. It was like a military depot for a long time. But now it's a working mosque. It's around 40% of Ajarans are Muslims. However, this is the only one in the city. So if you want to kind of experience the Muslim heritage, I've been told, you kind of need to go out into more rural areas, like the Mashakala Valley, for example, where you'll not only find the waterfalls and stuff like that, just like an hour from the city, but where a lot of the sort of villages are still practicing Muslims. And interestingly, I've been told they also make wine in the Muslim villages, which is kind of unheard of in the Muslim world. So yeah, that is the kind of Batumi Boulevard and the Old Town, the 19th century town. There's a lot more to do in this city. There's botanical gardens, there's cable cars, so I'll see what else I got time to show you while I'm here. Alright guys, so next stop is the top of the mountain. This is the Argo cable car, one of the main things to do in Batumi. It's like 30 gel, and yeah, you get the I've got the entire cable car to myself at the moment. One of the perks of traveling off season, I guess. But I've been here a couple of days, and because of the rain, it's the first time it's been open. Because yeah, it's a long ride to the top, so when the winds are smashing across Batumi, it gets shaken around a lot and they close it. But yeah, on a nice day like today, take a ride, go to the top of the mountain and enjoy some glorious views of the Vegas of the Black Sea. You can see how built up the city is now, lots of skyscrapers and some of the crazy modern architecture on the skyline behind me there. And this cable car goes on for a long bloody time. It's about 15 minutes long. It doesn't really go up, it just kind of it goes horizontally and slowly inches up rather than sort of whisking you to the top. So this is one of the newer cable cars in Georgia, not the newest, the new ones are in Tbilisi, but Georgian cable cars have quite a bad track record. A lot of the old Soviet ones that were built during the USSR time ended up kind of at times collapsing and breaking when people were on them. That was mainly in the 90s. There was a big accident in Tbilisi, for example, up to Matsuminda, the big hill above the city, because the cable cars basically, they couldn't care for them, they couldn't maintain them properly after the Soviet Union collapsed. And at a time when Georgia was kind of collapsing itself after the 1990s and all the unrest and conflicts, the cable cars kind of, some of them met some untimely demises, and there's some unfortunate accidents and casualties. But these days they've replaced a lot of the old Soviet ones with these kind of newer ones, which I presume are a lot safer. Let's hope anyway. So this is the viewpoint. Yeah, nice viewpoint. Not much to do up here. There's a wine shop. It's Georgia. A restaurant, overpriced, and some strange digital museum. I couldn't quite figure out what it was, but anyway, it's good. Good little viewing platform. Alright, there we go. Not much else left to do apart from go back down again. So guys, still in Batumi, and today I'm going to be heading out of the city up into Mashakala Valley, where there's waterfalls, national parks, and one of the largest Muslim populations in Ajara. So it's looking pretty changeable, the weather. Rain is forecast despite it being sunny now. I think up in the mountains, which I can see from here, from my rooftop balcony at rooms where I'm staying, it looks pretty rainy. So we'll see how much I can film, but I'll try and get you some footage. Unfortunately, it was raining all day, so I couldn't really film much, but there were crashing waterfalls. I'll show you a little bit of that. And then way up here is this spectacular valley. Look at this. Incredible. And we're just about to sit down and have a little feast of Georgian Ajaran food. It's pretty similar to the rest of Georgia, but with some distinct differences. We're very close to the Turkish border. The Turkish border is just over this mountain here. Actually, the other side of that is Turkey. This place is called Mashakala National Park, and down here apparently the Ajaran Muslims are famous for their gun making. There's gun forges all along here. They're not open now because it's the low season, but I think I'm going to have to come back and make another video about the gun makers of Mashakala. But this is a national park where you can hike. It's just 1 hour outside of Batumi, and you're up here in the Green Mountains, surrounded by clouds, and in a subtropical climate. So this is the other side of Batumi. Once you've seen all the architecture, you've been to the Black Sea beaches, come up here, drive up here to the mountains, and you're in a completely different world. Wow, look at this absolute feast.
Cheers.
Come on, Joss.
Abi Marcus says cheers in Georgia.
Cheers. Cheers.
Pierce, cheers for the guy.
Alright, so we just had a Georgian Supra again a Jarian style, which doesn't seem very different to the rest of Georgia. But the wine is flowing again, and there's a Georgian, a Jaran dance spectacle going on in the background. Right. Chat time! Guys, so that is it from Batumi, and the day I'm leaving, the sun is finally shining. But thank you for watching, and here's to Batumi and the Black Sea.